Gun, there's a big scary apex and...
Corton's not here right now.
Excuse me?
He doesn't care about apex monsters anymore.
But it's killing people!
Can he craft armor from it?
Of course not! Apex monster armor would outright kill the user!
Well, then he won't fight it.
People are dying!
What? He likes armor.
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, welcome one and all to a bit of a talk on one of the biggest issues with Rise. And in fact, this video can be summed up much easier than most. Put simply, my opinion is if the Apex monsters in Rise had their own armor sets, 90% of the people that complain about the game would stop. Before we get too deep into it though, please hit the like button if you like the video so we know that we should make more things like this, subscribe if you don't want to miss any more videos from us, and most importantly, what is your favorite number? There is a correct answer. Good luck. Let's start from the beginning and talk about how things are now first. When the game was originally released in March, there were 3 Apex monsters, Arzuros, Rathian, and Mizitsune. None of them had armor sets, and at the time it was a bit weird that they didn't, but it wasn't really enough of a big deal to ruin the game for me by any means. As the title updates rolled out over the course of a couple more months, we got more. First Apex Rathalos, then Apex Diablos, and then finally Apex Zinogre. Still no armor sets anywhere to be seen. What's especially odd about this at this point is that the Apex monsters are realistically the bonus challenge of Rise. They are the closest that we have to tempered and arch-tempered monsters from base Monster Hunter world. They are something that Capcom clearly wants us to fight in the end of the game, but unfortunately hunters just have very little incentive to do so. They gave us event quests to fight the monsters outside of the rampage, which was amazing, but they still had no armor sets, so again, where is the real incentive to fight them outside of pure hunting enjoyment? Now they have started re-releasing the Apex monsters again, but this time as super hard versions as event quests for Rise. First Arzuros a number of weeks ago, now Rathian, both of which have been kicking people's asses just a little bit, causing lots and lots of carts, and filling a hole many people have said that Rise had, which is difficulty. These are very specifically the arch-tempered monster equivalent from base world. These are the super-powered high-statistic versions of some particularly stronger monsters, and yet, once you kill them once or twice, again, where's the incentive to keep going? Even with these super-powered versions of the monsters, there are no weapons, there's no armor. That is the biggest difference between this and base world to me at the moment. Say what you will about the end game of Rise, but I fully believe if the original Apex monsters had armor sets, and then these super-powered event quest Apexes had slightly altered armor sets, it would breathe an absolute breath of fresh air into this game. It would turn this from a cool event that's going to be dropping every few weeks into a meaningful content update every single time that keeps people around for a little bit, messing with new armor sets and creating brand new funky combinations of equipment and decorations, because that is the only real difference between these super Apex monsters in Rise and the arch-tempered monsters from World and Iceborne. It is equipment, the reward for fighting it. That said though, even if they still hadn't given the base Apex monsters an armor set and made them only have armor sets from these super powered ones that you can only acquire from these quests, ones that you need to beat the ultra powerful version to kill, that would still have been super interesting, but we didn't get that either. And it's hard to outright complain because again, what I want here is built entirely from my own expectations and not from things that Capcom told us would happen. But still, it very much begs the question, why don't the Apex monsters have armor sets? And then, to me personally, the follow-up question of that is this the biggest misstep in the entirety of Monster Hunter Rise, at least compared to what would be required to fix it? Say what you will about the endgame, but I fully believe that it was an attempt at a new type of system that it didn't quite work for the majority of the player base. It was too free, there wasn't enough direction. This, however, the lack of Apex armor, is actually a complete lack of something that we've come to expect as players. If there's a monster, it has armor. That's just sort of how it's worked for a very long time. It feels like it's literally missing from the game, rather than something that could have been there. It feels like something that should have been, and isn't. Something that would help to complete base Rise, and something that would have made this slow drip of superpowered Apex event quests truly meaningful and revitalizing for the entire player base. Don't get me wrong, Capcom is listening to us, and that's wonderful. They are filling holes in the game. They are giving us super difficult quests after months of generally people complaining about a lack of difficulty in Monster Hunter Rise. I just think that this would have been the easiest possible two birds with one stone scenario right here. Super hard Apexes gives the super hard difficulty, but then also add the addition of the Apex armor sets, which visually literally don't need to be any harder than a color flip of the base armor sets for the regular monsters. And then the way that people think of Rise as a whole shifts entirely as far as I'm concerned. Imagine if when these super powered Apex Arzuros appeared, we also got some gnarly looking bear armor with a collection of skills that we haven't seen arranged together in the past, or even something like a unique set bonus for each of the Apexes. How amazing would that have been to just have every few weeks? It's hard though to not feel like I'm whining here, because obviously we are getting these super strong Apex quests, assumedly every few weeks based off these first examples, but I think there is an entire ocean of difference between a buffed Apex once a month or two and a buffed Apex with a new armor set every once a month or two. That goes from the event quest bringing a single night of frustration and entertainment to a week or so spent making builds and messing around with it. They could have given players so much more time, so much more reason to spend time with this game in this stage.
The power to control time.
In the past, I have tried to think of various different things that could have been different with Rise, either along the release cycle or even after the fact, that might change the general opinion of the game, because the truth is, lots of people absolutely love Monster Hunter Rise, but given how unbelievably fun I consider the base combat to be, like this is my favorite combat in a Monster Hunter game, I think that the game as a whole is underappreciated in the community as a whole. Everyone has their reasons, but I genuinely think that if Capcom had made this one change here, this one, relatively speaking, tiny change, after all, a color-swapped armor set is nothing compared to a whole new monster or something like that. But if they had literally just given Apex monsters armor sets, I think the entire perception of Rise would be different from the very release of the game, in through the title updates, which now, by the way, would have had 3 bonus armor sets in them that they didn't before, and then now, in this stage of the Super Apex monsters, we could have even more armor that Capcom wouldn't have to completely redesign from the ground up to make acceptable, because I think as a community, we would much rather get black and red Arzuros armor with an interesting pile of skills than nothing, because right now that is what we've got in that slot. For Apex armor, we got nothing. Absolutely, people would have complained if they thought the design of the armor was lazy in any way, shape, or form, but what will people complain about more than a bad design? No design. Unfortunately, it is just sort of a rotating list though, right? If we just fix this one thing, excludes every single person who doesn't like Rise for an unrelated reason. But that said, I think this may be the one thing that would have completely shifted the majority of the public opinion of this game without the massive effort of something like a whole new monster. And even then, I think in this situation, 6 new armor sets may have added more to the game than 1 new monster. So if that was the choice, then yeah, I mean, we should have Apex armor sets. It's weird that there weren't Apex armor sets in the base game. It's weird that we got event quests to fight them outside of the Rampage and they still didn't give us any proper rewards. And now it's weird that we have super powerful versions of these monsters that also still don't give any proper rewards. And the reason that none of them gives proper rewards is because they don't have the equipment for us to farm. I don't even know what else to say about this. It's so simple in my head, and yet I want to be sure that I have actually explained what I mean correctly here. But at this point, I have to trust that you get what I'm saying here. An armor set is way less exciting than a new monster, unless the monster also comes with an armor set, but a new monster fight will only ever affect you while you are engaged in that fight. An armor set carries on throughout the entire rest of the game. It makes waves in set creation and meta, in fashion sets, and when you know you are wearing a piece of Gos Harag's armor while you are fighting Almadron, you're still sort of thinking at least a little bit about Gos Harag, you know what I mean? Not having armor for the Apexes it's just a shame. It's not a thing that we were promised and lied to about or anything ridiculous like that, but it is one hell of a missed opportunity to really round out this game. Not just the base game, but the title updates, and now these late event quests as well. Alright everyone, I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been a talk about Apex monster armor sets not existing. Do you agree with me that this armor could have had a much larger impact on the reception of Rise as a whole? Are you some sort of weird person that thinks that Apex monsters are better off without armor? If so, please tell me why, because I know I couldn't think of a single reason. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.